around the world. And we have to realize that technology is so intertwined. We are in touch with 6 billion people through the grid of incredible synchronized fiber optics and internet communications that we can relate one-on-one to people, and we don't have to have our baggage. You just start today talking to somebody as if it's a new game, and we're in trouble, and we should keep her cool and try to be imaginative. So do not listen to the media hyping up tribal enmity, using tribal archetypes. Most Americans live in the magnetic center just like the Afghanis do. The point is we are unified. We have been linked, to go back to what we said in 1991. We are interlinked. We are inside each other's digestive system. And we are consuming and eating and feeding each other. That's the percept. A noun, a name, an American, any kind of word structure is puny compared to the electronic level we live on.
Bob, I'm going to go back to the caller and just see if he has any supplementary. Just a moment. Caller, does that answer your question?
Well, not really, no, because, there's a lot of supplementary things that the gentleman said, but, again, what I'm really driving at is that, it seems to me, again, from what the man, Bob, is saying, is that there seems to be a subversive or an invisible aspect to what we're all experiencing in the world now, and although the media is presenting it as one way, this gentleman is suggesting that there is something that, for most of us, is unfathomable, unimaginable.
I think you're right.
The point I'm trying to make is that it's occurring in me that it might actually be the cause of this may come from the very place that experienced the tragedy. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is a good sort of cliffhanger. If you, I'd encourage you to listen next week. Bob will be on next week, one last hour with Bob, at least for the foreseeable future. If you're asking these questions, then other listeners must be asking the same questions and are interested. So we'll discuss those next week. And thank you for your call. I'll go back to Bob. Bob, we're nearing the end here of the International Connection. It'd be very sad if this was the last contact we had with you for a while, but you will be back next week. And
I'll be on CFRB tonight at 11, CFRB 1010 a.m., if they want to continue this point. We'll be elaborating on what I've said. And if all works out, I'll be in the Toronto Star on Tuesday. You can read some other interpretations, angles I have on this. But I am saying in simple terms, yes, it was an inside job on the highest level.
Okay, Bob, thank you very much for being on the International Connection today. Bob Dobbs, and he'll be my guest next week, and we'll go into more detail, and maybe there'll be more situations happening during the week that he'll be able to comment on. Thank you very much, Bob, and we're going to go to a key in Western America right now.
That was pretty good. Let's see. I think this is that you, Roxy? I think it is.
Bert.
And then Bert. And is that Roxy? I just opened it. Roxy fall asleep? Oh, maybe she's this one. Is that you, Roxy?
No. Yes.
Yeah, that's you.
Hello.
Yes, it is. Hello.
Yes,
oh, did you catch that? Very
great.
Let me say this. The last call letter, CFRB 1010. That's 11. CFRB in Toronto. I was on 1010 twice. You know, the 16th and the 23rd. That's 211. That's 22. Even the radio environment was a 22.
Today is 22/11.
It's the 22nd. Yes, the anniversary of Bobdom is the 22nd. We've been on the show for 3 years, but it's appropriate we celebrate Bob's 2-run two-ness on the 22nd. No other day could have been done. And, of course, everybody's home. It's Thanksgiving. They're all gathered around their dysfunctional families. They all hate each other. They're all trying to ignore each other, so they're listening to me. So this is the highest listened to episode of Bob ever. A perfect time. Thank you, Roxy, for suggesting we do a historical retrospection on my prophecies.
Yes, because it is the Thanksgiving. Thank you for
giving thanks,
food.
Bob. The new food. Carol was listening to this. She's never heard this before, I don't think. She said, holy shit, Bob, you're predicting everything here, the food, the this, the that, the D-cell. She was quite impressed with it and laughing at the same time. You know, when you're laughing, you're learning, right? So she was learning a lot.
Yes, and
you didn't know.
it's like you're composing, and then the resolution, the consonants of the ending is relax and allow. This is
and allow means to think. Relax and allow means allow yourself to listen to Bob, because he's the only guy who make you think.
No, who is
Relax and
explaining
engage,
things
Bob.
clearly.
Go ahead. Clearly, I'm so clear. You notice that, Bert? I'm so fucking clear.
And Bob, you laid out everything that you've discussed, from cash flow, James Martinez, to what you've done in the last 3 years. Back in September 20. That's amazing. Amazing.
that is 14 years ago, which is 22 and 14 are on the chart. But it's like almost 22 years since 91 when I spoke about the the Kuwait invasion. That's 91. That's 24 years. That's not bad. It's pretty close to 22. It's not as good as me and Corbin since 93, 22, but yes, the numbers, it's so mathematical, a dynamic symmetry of oomphness among numbers.
The outline of 11, those 11 patterns were amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
But you're also answering, how do we organize the resistance? That's what the Minister of Culture of France is saying. The new resistance is the whole country, and the way we resist is with our culture. La licence vestimentaire, the liberté, la laïcité, all these values that they say this is how we resist, but you are saying no. How we resist is getting healthy. And part of getting healthy is the coherence of the information you are eating. You're saying this is the food also, the information.
Hey, we opened the show with Zappa playing in 68, 14, Zappa playing in Paris, this tremendous conference. And, if you look at my diaries, that was October 26th. 2 days later, I take my father to a Zappa concert, and you see me and him talking about it after.
Yeah.
So I actually saw that band.
Yes, and we see that why was Zappa or Bob not in the mainstream broadcast? Because they say they would like concision. You are too complex. I mean, all the things you are presenting is like you go everywhere with your explanation, with your chart.
Bob speaks over 3 chords. Remember I said last week, Roxana, you speak over 3 chords. I remember Roxana said last week that Zappa was making jokes about the beer drinking people, that they go to discos or bars and listen to 3-chord music, whereas Frank created very complex music, and that's like with Bob. That's why he's not in the mainstream, because there's so many patterns of chords that Bob brings out that most people would get, they don't understand it or feel it.
They fall asleep. They change the channel, and that does not help, radio management. Hey, look at this.
Yes,
I'll just say, Susanna goes, wow, Bob, you couldn't have known how prophetic your words were. Oh, I knew. Better food. I just didn't know how it was going to happen. I just knew I was right. Better food, new devices, new technologies in the next 10 years. Whoa. Holy shit. Yes, it's quite impressive. Let's see what Neufeld. Now, Neufeld was there. What does Neufeld think of this stuff? Okay, so he says, he's typing up like a maniac. He says, Bob's never-ceasing brilliance. This is his first statement, never stopping. Then he goes, so prophetic, Bob. Then he goes, awesome show tonight. And he goes, Toronto 2-2, amazing, Bob. Dave lived in Toronto. He knows that one. I guess he forgot it. And then Dave goes, my God, this is the most thorough analysis of 11 imaginable. Then he goes, Bobby, some love expressed for Nelson. Yes, I was a little fucked up there. That was a mistake, Dave. And he says, echoes from the burning bush. because, Nelson has become a problem for himself since then. But he stayed. He flew close to the sun. He hung around for a long time. You got to give credit for that. Then Susanna says how you didn't know how prophetic you were. And then .94, whoever that is, just has a laugh icon. He doesn't take it seriously. Oh, here comes another witness from the old days. Sue Bohm. Sky Goddess Sue says, this show is blowing my mind. See, another club. She's a Club 22 member. She goes, Bob, Roxy, and Bert, you are on fire. I was in Paris last Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, breathing the drops everywhere, sitting in cafes, pondering how everything's disappeared. And then Neufeld writes, Neufeld's a member of Club 22, at the same time as Sue, goes, ha, 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 to what Sue wrote. So it's a reunion.
No, I think it's really the exaltation, because while we are bombarded in the media by all this fear, which it's really now the terror. It's the terror.
Yeah, the monster terror, yeah, right. Remember what Zappa named the fourth side of Freakout, the return of the son of Monster Magna. So you could say the Android meme is the son of analogical media, which is the Monster Magnet. Lewis called the global village the magnetic city. So the return of the son of Monster Magnet is the Android meme.
Yes,
go ahead, Rob.
And the medias are really the real terrorists, because they're creating more terror than the actual event.
Well, McLuhan used to say, more people do coverage of Vietnam than fought or died in Vietnam. Because you get all the world media covering Vietnam 24/7. More people employed doing that than the actual event. That's what it is. E equals MC squared. A small bit of information gets moved at the speed of thought or light and assumes infinite mass. Yeah, so this... Yes,
and another thing you're saying is, like, you cannot resist in the traditional way because you don't really know who your enemies are.
Yeah, you don't know who anybody is. See, you got doubles, Bert's got doubles, everybody's got fucking doubles.
That's another part of the paranoia and the fear they're creating. They're saying the enemies are not somewhere in another country. Ils sont chez nous. They say that they're in our country, because they were also saying a lot that all these terrorists were born in France and were educated in France, and somehow they got radical, even though there are these new technologies where you can have all this information, and they say the enemy is everywhere, and it's not only geographical, it's somewhere far away. They're here, and that's
He's
part
sitting
of
beside you in the cafe. He's serving you your drink.
And you're saying, yes, you don't know who the enemy is, and they're also making a big deal of the new cyber spaces that are also invaded by this virus. So the thing is, like, they're saying all the time, we have to get used to live with this fear and to adapt to this new situation. And you're saying the opposite is you have to...
We have to live with ecstasy. You have to learn to live with ecstasy. Now, in the Paris quadrant of the chart...
healthy.
Hey, look at this. Look. In the Paris quadrant, prophecy's coming through, folks. Perk up, listen. So in Paris, in the Paris-LaRouche quadrant, it's paranoia is the emotion. What is the emotion in Toronto, in the McLuhan quadrant? It's schizophrenia. That's fucking Justin Trudeau. A double of his father, schizoid. I mean, he was in Manila the other day, and they were trying to turn him into a pop star. Who's orchestrating this? It's coming out of Toronto. Toronto, the old solar government headquarters. So look at the schizophrenia that's going to come out of the McLuhan quadrant. I bet it's Justin Trudeau.
Yes, as you're saying,
Joe.
don't engage. Don't engage mainstream media. They're disinform you, and that's how.
And don't engage anybody who's on the mainstream media, like Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, because
be superior to them.
Zappa was saying that's how they get into your mind and get you to do what they want to do, and that's how they program the environment.
Zappa makes a big deal out of Christmas. Zappa makes a big deal out of Christmas. It's all through his albums. A lot of the scenarios in the plays are at Christmas. And he has on one of his early albums, Christmas don't make it anymore, do, Christmas don't make it anymore. So he's really got a bug in his ass about Christmas. Well, that was the name of my unpublished book in 1971, A Christmas Gift to a Young Nation. A Christmas gift is something to be aware of. It will have disease in it. Most diseases are propagated during the holiday season because of the pollution in them. It kills people. Then they all suffer in January, February. So Christmas is very bad. As Nelson Thal and the Herbert W. Armstrong used to say, Christmas is a pagan festival to be seriously avoided. Christmas.
Hey, Bob, two patterns. That's how
what?
you get. That's how Ion called you Santa Claus, then, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm the Lucifer. I forgot that shit. That's my holiday. Fuck. I aligned myself with the bad day. Well, that's just pointing out the disservice. But I said A Christmas Gift to a Young Nation was my book, and it didn't get published by Anansi Press in Toronto. Anyways, it's a Christmas gift. It's poison. Homeopathic. Is that the word? No, pharmacy. Derrida wrote about pharmacy as both, a beneficial drug and a poison. So the drug is a metaphor for every technology has services and disservices. Let's see if Neufeld and anybody else is typing stuff. Dave smiles at me going, ha, 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 quoting him. Then Yuri says, fidelity, yes. Not sure what that means. Susanna says, causing discarnate stress. That's the de Kirchhoff talk. And Sue says, this analysis diffuses stress and anxiety. Yes, the grammar, that's what Satan is. Milton said that Satan confused his mind with language. Bad language, inadequate language, imprecise language, lying language, that's what's evil. It's not a person. It's media being badly used is what is, quote, evil. And that's why this analysis diffuses stress and anxiety. You're hearing words saying with perfect pitch. Then Susanna's, a bird just crashed into the window. They're always fucking trying to attack me, these birds, and just collapsed. And Susanna says the media is creating discarnate stress. That's right. Well, discarnate stress is causing media, because media are visible content that you fall back on thinking there's chemical bodies out there. So they show you endless chemical bodies as the content of media. So, but that's an antidote to the discarnate stress itself. Dave says, listening, hitting the other side soon. What's that mean, Dave? I guess that means he's going to sleep, or listening, hitting the other side soon. Well, you want to hear part 2, Dave? You want to hear what happened next week on September 30th, 2001? You want to hear that recording? I think it's good.
Yes, and another thing you say is language could not be created by angels or God.
They can't do language.
Humans created language.
And this is what we were saying. Retrieving the power is part of this process of language, of verbalizing, of expression, of.
And let's remember, this is the Zappa Hour Plus. What?
Going through all this media and ecology is part of our retrieving of the power that we're understanding.
Of our language, of our description.
What happened and what's happening and how come.
Yeah, like the reason we can rewrite the last 30 years, if we talk it accurately, or even if it isn't accurate, but if we talk about it powerfully, we will control the mind's perception of what happens. It outdoes Big Brother in 1984. We, by expressing it better, changes the view of the past. So we have to realize this show it's the Zappa Hour Plus. It ends up to be 15 hours. We're posting it on the Frank Zappa fan sites. These guys are coming to this to listen about Frank, and they'll hear a little bit of Frank, but they'll look at it and go, what the fuck? It's all about Bob. It's like an info commercial. He faked having a guest, Frank Zappa, so he can promote his own shit. So remember the humor of that.
No, because it's actually something he saw. The conceptual continuity is not only the whole of your work, but you taking on the people that came before you is what LaRouche said. You have to connect to the big eternal. He thought we're not eternal as physical meat sacks, but eternal in reconnecting to this big work of art that is the environment.
Right. Let's see what Dave says. Listening, hitting the other side soon. Dave's calling that sleep. Then he says, I'll try and hang in. Got up at 7. Then Sue, who's watching what Dave types, says, yeah, Dave, it's 20 after 4 here. Sue bragging that she's up till 20 after 4 in the morning. Well, yeah. Okay, so I'm sorry we're going to play this next hour, but it's worth it. We are celebrating Bob. We're giving thanks via Frank to Dobbstown, right? Isn't that what we're doing? And, of course, that just means...
No, we're actually understanding why Zappa is part of the chart and how the chart contains...
Exactly. Very good, Roxy. You reminded me of what we were doing. I got carried away thinking it was about me. No, it's about the chart.
Well, Bob, you are
I'm the worst cult member here. I am the most devoted cult member.
Understanding the church is part of the healing of. We also need to, in all this noise, to hear the music, the coherence. The
coherence. Okay, well, Dave says no. Dave goes, he, and he goes, no, it's 4:20, Bob. So now Sue and Dave are arguing over what time it is. See, it's not human. That's what happens with time. People start arguing. He's saying, no, it's 4:20, Bob. Oh, no, he's saying it's 420. 420, which is, 24, and it's 24 years since this last broadcast. There's 42, the big number in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So I think Dave is pointing out the relevance of 420. And then Suzanne says, Bob is right again. I don't know what about. I said too much. Most of it was correct. Now, Greg comes back, and he puts together, I think, a really nice collage. He has met me. I was on a show a couple of days later. Then he has a week to organize his archives. He had one of the best Club 22 archives from CKLN. And he does a really nice job, I think, in this part. More amazement of what was said. It is pretty amazing to listen to it. Okay, so we're looking at part 2. So we're ready?
Yay!
Okay. Dave's saying 420. 420. 420? We'll have to wait on Dave. Type some more evidence. Dave's discovering something. Dave's discovering something. He's trying to find the perfect words. Okay, here we go. Mute everybody.
All participants are now muted.
Details of Frank later in detail. Frank in detail. Okay, so reading from his transcripts, which predict Ion, even more evidence of that. Okay, I will make sure the sound is right.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Unfortunate Sonic Casualties here on CKLN 88.1 FM. My name's Gerald Belanger, and here tonight, a very special guest beaming in from the past, but always from the future. A man who used to dominate this time slot and dominate the airwaves. He did. the highest-rated show CKLN has ever had. The man sitting next to me, Mr. Bob Dobbs.
Good evening, Jerry. You want to do it next week? I'm here next week.
No. But, maybe Greg will have you on his show. You should talk to him.
Who's Greg?
Greg Duffel. He's here in the building. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you're Greg. I came down. Running down. William Cabinet Secretary of State, Greg Duffel.
I want you always beside me.
Good morning and welcome to the International Connection. Today's installment is a special one as it marks the return of a former CKLN broadcaster who played a big role in influencing the formation of this very program. As some of you may remember, Bob Marshall was the original host of the International Connection. His programming brought us voices such as Dave Emery, Sherman Skolnick, Frank Zappa, Lyndon LaRouche, and the astounding Mae Russell. Joining us today will be Bob Marshall's teacher, a former CKLN broadcaster himself, visionary and subgenius. After over a 10-year absence, I'm extremely proud to welcome to the International Connection this morning, calling from an undisclosed location, somewhere in the Greater Toronto area, none other than Bob Dobbs.
I'll be on CFRB tonight at 11, CFRB 1010 AM.
You are an old man who thinks in terms of nations and peoples. There are no nations. There are no peoples. There are no Russians. There are no Arabs. There are no third worlds. There is no West. There is only one holistic system of systems. One vast and immane, interwoven, interacting, multivariate, multinational dominion of dollars. And you have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Oh, by the way, welcome to the program. Richard Serrett with you till 2 o'clock. It's the night side. The new and improved night side. We'll continue to talk about events of September 11th, the terrorist attack, so-called. Nelson Thal is here, and Bob Dobbs, a real-life spy from Echelon Intelligence. Welcome once again, gentlemen, to the program.
Well, let's look at it as a Rome that's global. In other words, we spiral through history, we repeat the same methods, each dictator, and this is the global final dictatorship.
Yes.
Final Rome.
We are interlinked. We are inside each other's digestive system, and we are consuming and eating and feeding each other. That's the percept. A noun, a name, an American, any kind of word structure is puny compared to the electronic level we live on.
Bob, I'm going to go back to the caller.
It seems to me, again, from what Bob is saying, is that it might actually come from the very place that experienced the tragedy.
This is a good cliffhanger. Bob will be on next week, one last hour with Bob.
All works out. I'll be in the Toronto Star on Tuesday.
Excellence was always my mandate. You want to do it next week? I'm here next week.
So, good morning. It's time for another International Connection. Heard each week here on CKLN 88.1 FM and on the internet at http://ckln.sac.ryerson.ca. I'm your host, Greg Duffel, and I'm here every Sunday morning at this time. Additionally, you may reach us by accessing the International Connection email or web address, and I'll give those out soon because they contain important information about Bob. And if I'm lucky here, Bob, do you hear me?
No.
Yes, you don't?
Are we on?
Yes, you're on. You're up on CKLN here. Can you hear me at all?
No.
How would you be responding to me if you couldn't hear me?
Well, I hear you through the radio.
Oh, good. That's
okay,
good.
I'm not going to hear you in my ear then.
Nope, you're going to hear me on the radio only.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Lucky I got a radio.
Yes, I know. That's why I wanted you to have a radio.
Okay. I guess I should have warned you. That was tremendous billing, and I intend to live up to it.
Okay, very good. Well, Bob, I've got lots of material to cover today, so let's just get right into it. Before we go any further ruminations about the September 11th situation that have happened over the last week of your thinking about it and more absorbing, more activities by the powers that will be?
Okay, first point is to go back to Stanley Kubrick's 2001. He picked the right year. What did the apes see? They saw World Trade Tower 1. What did the men who landed on the moon, 20,000 years later see? World Trade Center Tower 2. You remember that big black slab?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, Alpha and the Omega in man's history, in humanity's history. Two big slabs, which would be technological space, turned into hardware. So I just want to point out that Kubrick picked the right date, 2001.
I'm going to play a little clip here, Bob. It's sort of about our audience, and actually, this is a clip from a few years ago, maybe 10 or 11 years ago. I think it's August 22nd.
Good date. You look at the April 1981 issue of Covert Intelligence, Covert Action Bulletin. Mm-hmm. There's an article on the October 22nd movement, how certain American intelligence agencies always do their dirty work on the 22nd. That's April 1981 Covert Action Bulletin.
Here is a clip from the August 22nd Bob Dobbs show.
Elliot's The Wasteland originally was called He Do the Police in Different Voices. Who are the brain police? That's me. I do the police in different voices. But I don't do the voices myself. I change in response to the voices offered by the Holy Offices from McLuhan, Skolnick, and so forth. You know what I mean? You ever read Lyndon LaRouche? Have you got that far yet? That's tricky stuff to get into. Have you got that far?
I haven't understood one thing you've talked about and all that. We listen to this over and over again, your tapes every day, and it's...
Well, I'll give you a clue. You got to go get Finnegan's Wake. Finnegan's Wake is what we use. We use Finnegan's Wake, which is radio in print.
I dropped out of school, 10, 12 years ago, and I tried to read some James Joyce years ago. My brother gave to me.
Well, you have an advantage. You see, it's the most intelligent people believe the myths of their time and are most successful at it. They're the ones who become the professional yuppies and leaders, and they believe the myths, and they become stupid.
I'm trying to get on welfare myself.
Well, that's the right direction. Go in that direction. Head for welfare, because that'll give you slack and give you time to understand Finnegan's Wake.
Yeah.
Okay?
All right.
Communism is way better than Christianity. Communism is way better, far superior to Christianity. Okay, caller, we're ready, mate. That's it, Tim. You're wonderful.
You. Bye.
Bye. Oh, that guy is... that's a good student, mate. I'm happy. On the 22nd, can you believe it?
Good night tonight, Bob.
Yeah.
It feels good.
So, Bob, there was the craziness that was that show. You heard Mike Dyer there. Any comments about that for our audience?
Well, I love your taste. You picked some good items. I want to go on to the next point, which will enhance the craziness. I have a chart, which you can go onto my website, but you'll give that later.
Well, actually, I'll do that right now. Maybe people want to follow along. The easiest way to get to all of Bob's sites is to go to the International Connection website, which is members.home.net/International Connection, all together. And go there, go to the links page, and you'll find all kinds of Bob links on that site.
All right, if they go to the Silencing the Virtually Solar Theater chart.
Okay.
That's the title, which is what we witnessed on September 11th. What you have on the top of the chart is 5 names: Rai, Eloy, Tu, Lofty, and Bob. Rai, Eloy, Tu, and Lofty are ancient archetypes for the original separatenesses. Bob is positioned in that chart for the feminine stream, the feminine meme of ISIS. Now, there's a reason why Bob's positioned there. Yesterday, we had a frightening and amazing confirmation of the chart. They showed the picture and name of one of the suspected terrorist trainers. It was in the Toronto Star on page A16. And his name was, first of all, last name, Rai Icy. Combination of Rai and ISIS on my chart. And the combination of male-female was what was happening from 1990 on till now through the work of Bob and Connie, who replay and mirror the Rai and ISIS situation. But guess what his first name was? The hint is he came in on air. It wasn't Eloy, it wasn't Tu, it was Lofty. One of the names of my chart. I hope the intelligence agencies concerned do not interrogate you too quickly, Greg, but how come the name of one of the guys is on my chart?
And again, when was that chart done?
That chart was published in the August-September issue of 96, issue of Flipside, so exactly 5 years ago. It was composed in late 95, early 96, as I figured out a way to mirror the Android memes romp through the 90s.
Amazing. Well, I'll be waiting for a knock on my door. Actually, speaking of knock on my door, now we talked last week about the significance of the number 22. It's come up again today because of the August 22, 1990 broadcast that I just played a section from. Now, my street address is 422. Now, should I be concerned about that, Bob?
Yes, more as an irony. That's April 22nd. April 22nd, 92, there's your 11, but April 22nd was the date for the first perfect pitch that Bob Marshall and Tom Rich put out in 85. They did another perfect pitch April 22nd, 86, and then a third one September 22nd, always mirroring the 22nd. But the next extraordinary point was Bob's Me Calls he put out by Time Again Productions, and Jerry Belanger was the first distributor of that, Dobbs Entertainment, I think it was called. That album arrived in Toronto on April 22nd, 1992. April 22nd is very important. That's your address, 422.
That's right. I've always been concerned about that, and but that sounds like good Xenocracy.
Yes. There are 2 kinds and 4 kinds and many kinds of 22. But if you, as we used to say on the show, I used to be able to have callers call in, and I knew they were sub-geniuses, so they would, I would say, what's your phone number? And they'd give their phone number. After I'd asked for 22 in their life and they couldn't find it, something like their address or phone number would be given, and we'd find a 22 in there. So obviously you've been a devoted sub-genius, and you're going to have the 22, but you're like on the A team with an 422 22 aspect. That's important. That's good.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I'm not going to delay this any longer because he's on the phone, and here he is, Bob. Here is Wayne Morris.
Hello, Wayne.
Hey, Bob.
Good to hear from you. Wayne has the honor of allowing me to do 5 last shows, a kind of postscript from April to August 91 after Mike Dyer left and I wasn't allowed back on anymore.
Oh.
Wayne sponsored those last shows, and I always remember when we had the Exes talk about George Bush, and it said Wayne reeling. It just upset his paradigm.
Oh, it sure did. Do you still hold those views about Bush?
Oh, yeah, well, he's, it's always in ratio. It's a figure ground. George Bush in relation to Reagan, George Bush in relation to his past, George Bush in relation to our present. The main point about Bush is that he made some very smart moves in 1980 when he pulled off the October surprise. But that's all water under the bridge. In the long run, everybody failed. We're now in big trouble. All of humanity failed. So it's not a time for blame, because as Leonard Cohen says, everybody knows. Now how do we apply that?
I just want to introduce Wayne because some listeners might not know who he is, and I don't think I gave him a proper introduction. Wayne Morris is the former host of the International Connection. He is the longest lived host of the International Connection in terms of the span of the program. He was around, I guess, doing International Connection from the late 1980s until just about a year and a half ago when he handed over to me. And so there. Anyway.
All right, well, now you've got all the hosts of the International Connection almost.
Pretty much.
Right now.
Pretty much.
I took it over from Bob.
Yeah. So.
Thanks for taking it over, Wayne.
Hey, no problem. It was a fun 10 years.
Yeah, well, it was a good waiting period. Now it all makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I want to put out some possibilities and get your comments on this, too. Just some ideas that I've been thinking about and of what's behind the horrible events of a couple of weeks ago now. What came to mind, having particularly done the Mind Control radio series and getting kind of an inside scoop on this global hierarchy, and it was referred to as the Council or Illuminati or whatever you want to call it.
I called it the solar government, if you remember.
The secret government, right?
No, the solar government.
Well, I'm not sure if it goes that far, but whoever's running Kissinger, Bush.
You know about Echelon, Wayne.
Echelon?
Yes, that is the solar government. Technically, that is...
Right, the technology government.
Yeah, and they're the ones who the European Parliament complained about. They made an official statement about 6 weeks ago.
Right.
I mean, so that is it's a technological vortex. It's cyberspace, as it was known in the 90s. That's the solar government I said I was part of.
Right.
But carry on.
Well, these, people seem to have, the humans that are involved in this seem to have this behavioral disorder of wanting to control everything. I don't quite understand it, but that seems to be the case, and these are the same people that are involved in very heavily involved in international drug trafficking and arms traffic and child pornography and all kinds of other very lucrative industries. And what I had thought might be a possibility for what's behind this attack is we heard George Bush Sr. talk about the New World Order and wanting to bring in a global government, global military, which, Bob, I'm sure that, well, in terms of the government, is already there.
Wayne,
in terms of the military, what I see as the effects of what's just happened is that we're moving now towards, we've identified a new enemy, global terrorism, and it's going to take a global war to fight this as it's being set up. And I think this is a major step forward in terms of amalgamating the U.S. military with NATO and perhaps other national militaries into a global military system. What I heard also, which is I haven't confirmed whether it's true, and probably we won't know for a little while, is within a couple of hours of the bombing, or rather the crash into the Pentagon, I heard from somebody that works in the U.S. Air Force that what they were being told, what they were told within those first couple of hours, was that the plane had a very strategic target and wiped out the top brass in the U.S. Army in the Pentagon. Now, we haven't heard that yet, but if it's true, and I understand there were some conflicts between the Army generals and the more of the globalists that were trying to, take over the U.S. military, including Cheney, who is from a NATO background. That this may, if it's true, it may be a huge step in terms of amalgamating the militaries of the world, in terms of having the NATO generals step in to basically run the U.S. Army. But we'll see about that. In any case, whether that's true or not, I think it's been a big step forward in terms of advancing that global, the New World Order agenda. And the other effects are just that we have now are approaching, given the go-ahead, and we're asking, the public is asking for this, go-ahead for bringing in a police state, basically wiping out any rights, privacy that we have now, will be drastically changed or erased in the future, all in the name of fighting this global terrorist threat. Other possibilities that are even maybe scarier is that if what I think is possibility is that Bush Sr., Kissinger are behind this, but basically just carrying out the plans of this higher controlling body, and that they're attempting a deliberate provocation on the Arab world with the end in mind to basically really cripple the United States in terms of economic and military power. So I want to put that out for people to think about. There are possibilities, and I think from what I've read and people that I've talked to, that it's, from my view, it's the most likely possibility. And that the other effect of that is on a more kind of emotional, spiritual level, is that this has created an enormous amount of fear around the world, a fear that people realize now that a world war may be imminent, that we may be seeing retaliation attacks, that there's all kinds of advanced weaponry out there, and a lot of weaponry that's kind of unaccounted for from the former Soviet Union. And I think that also may be part of the intended effect, is to create this fear energy around the world. And I think people have got to think about, if that's what they want, then maybe we should be, focusing on the love energy and really keeping that in mind and getting in touch with your spiritual selves to get through this. and because I think things are going to get crazier in the next few years, and I think people, unless they have that connection to spirit, are going to fall into those traps. But so, Bob, what do you make of what I've just said?
Well, they're wise words, Wayne, and I wouldn't. I go ditto, as they say on Rush Limbaugh. Ditto, Wayne. The only thing I'd add is the fact that you wondered at the beginning why humans have to have this vanity, this greed, this centralization. I think that was McLuhan's contribution that he got from Phineas Wake and enhanced with Harold Innis, was the fact that the phonetic alphabet created this abstract visual space, which set up center margin structures, which we saw exaggerated in the Roman Empire. And then when papyrus was pulled out, it happened again with print, which sped up the phonetic alphabetic effect. And then as we got into the electric age and then the digital age, you have this privacy-generated effect from the alphabet and the printed book, which is a cultural meme that has an addiction to privacy. And as the electronic vortex swallows it up, the inheritors of the legacy of that visual space, that visual effect, is in a real identity crisis. So Bush and Kissinger, and they are certainly just puppets for the 12 people I talked about last week on this show, the 12 people that have no names because they have doubles. They are not the names they originally were born with, and they are riding this storm, the Doors, riders of the storm. They're riding this storm, representing private space, which we all have. So the question becomes, what is spirituality? Is spirituality the electronic vortex, the global Esperanto that X-rays and threatens this private identity, or is spirituality something that is neither private identity or corporate identity and some level of transcendence? These are the questions I think the Creator is working out through us in this problem. I believe in an evolutionary situation where the Creator is not sure what it has created, and we're acting out that drama of cognition. So that's the big picture. That's and maybe esoteric for many people, but that's the drama that the media are acting out. The Android meme is acting out in front of us, the clash between the retribalized corporate ESP and the private identity set up by money and print systems. Just so, Wayne, you cannot be a Rockefeller, but Rockefeller does not own the incredible software communism we live in. But as it gets more and more threatened by our hardware military bureaucracies, it attempts to lock down and control this whole thing to preserve the fact that, Wayne, you can be Wayne and I can be Bob under different names, right? See, there's a different way to look at it.
Yeah, and just your comment about, I think the spirit is a universal identity. It kind of transcends all of
right, but we have the electric environment that extends, Wayne, we have the electric environment that extends that spiritual condition. And if we don't understand how that threatens the cultural values propped up by the phonetic alphabet, then we're further confused. Not that I say that the phonetic alphabet is the ultimate medium, but it is there in the West, and it is the meme and the technological support and apparatus that created this crisis. Because why couldn't we, 40 years ago, in the 60s, united under the global effect of satellite computers and television? What was preventing that? Some could say greed, some could say lust, some could say private power, vanity, the pleasure of not being a cyborg while the whole population turns into a cyborg. What was the reason when Rai returned to essence in January 67 that humanity is backfiring? Well, maybe we have to work out this agony because history always goes through transformation via blood, it seems. So I know that we're in big trouble, exactly what you said. We're going to have radiation. We're going to have pollution of the food supply. So I've said on CFRB and after and other shows that we have to organize how we're going to build up the planet after. And that includes creative resistance in all forms and includes breakdown as breakthrough. We can enhance the organic food networks. We can enhance the food supply in the ways that shows real intelligence is not frustrated by the industrial confusion of the last 100 years.
What do you think about the ideas of this Earth and all the inhabitants about moving into a new octave of vibration.
Well, the Church of Subgenius is interpreted by Reverend Stang, and those boys make a joke of that. They take the fundamentalist term, the rapture, and call it the rupture. So I think the rupture has been happening through various environments. This is on my chart. The telegraph, and then the movie, then the radio and the television, then the computer and the satellite, and then the instant replay, and now the Android meme are octaves. I think William Irwin Thompson, who included in my book Phatic Communion, is the best philosopher of shifting in a new octave. He's quite serious about saying that we need to be mutated into a new form, and it'll happen.
It is happening now. I mean, all the new children that are being born are different race of human beings. They're
the indigo,
extremely intelligent, and have this sense of that they are spiritual beings having a human experience. And
yeah, that's the indigo generation, is the popular term. Well, maybe that's why my email is named Purple. I am the leader of whoever claims to be
the original indigo child.
Beg your pardon?
The original indigo child.
Yes, purple. You look at that the people. P-E-U-R. You know, means original. The people. The pun in the word purple. An overlayered pun. So the transformation is going to happen, and we can be optimistic because we all know we survive death. We just don't know if God knows what he or she or it is doing in offering this challenge to what he's created.
Yeah.
That's the question. But, of course, the question's always there.
Responsible.
Wouldn't it be amazing, Wayne, if we have altered the whole direction of the archive and the octave this present hour?
Well, I think we've got the collective ability to do that.
Yes, because it's homeopathic. We, in one little point, can affect everything. You know, the chaos theory of the butterfly.
Yeah. But I think we've been so fractured by all of these, media and political systems, religion, and so forth, that we've forgotten that, and we've forgotten our power that way.
Yeah, that's
hopefully we'll remember in time.
What'd you say?
Hopefully we'll remember in time before it's too late.
Well, I don't want to reduce ourselves to platitudes. I mean, they are necessary, but what would we say next? I agree with you, but what would we say next at 3 minutes to 10?
Who knows?
Well, why don't I break in? Wayne, do you want to hang in here and go roll with the show here, and I'll play some other stuff? And do you want to stay on?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Bob, I'm going to go to a little thing that I put together for a moment here, and we'll be back with more comments from Bob. Bob? I've lost Bob.
Uh-oh.
Wayne, vamp for me here for a minute, okay?
Yeah, I think Bob started the show sometime around the early 80s, mid-80s. So it's been 15, 16, 17 years. The first things that came to mind, too, when I heard about this was, and just started thinking about it, was the history that particularly Bush Sr. has had in terms of setting up their previous assets for a fall. We saw that with Saddam Hussein, who was a CIA-paid asset before the U.S. supplying him with a lot of the arms technology that, some of that he currently has, and basically set him up for that attack. Similarities in the Oklahoma City bombing, where I've pretty much been convinced that it was an inside job as well, and setting up the patsies for that, and again having that same effect of really expanding legally the powers of the U.S. in terms of fighting terrorism. The counterterrorism bill was signed by President Clinton the next day after the bombing. It was all ready to go, and which gave the U.S. the ability to decide in a secret court, without having to provide evidence to the accused, that you're a terrorist, we're going to lock you up, take everything you've got, and throw away the key. And they've already got that power now.
Listen, I'm going to play something that's sort of apropos to that. It's from Frank Zappa, a topic that I want to go into now with Bob about Frank. Here's something from, I don't know when this was recorded, obviously more than 10 years ago, because Frank's been gone for over 10 years, except Bob communicates with him. Hold on. Here is the Frank Zappa clip.
We're talking about the concentration camp in Louisiana.
Yep. The story of this concentration camp was run on the ABC network show Nightline. I guess it was 87, or whenever I was editing on Uncle Meat at the Pacific Video, because that's where I saw it. And then an interview with the mayor of this town in Louisiana, where they've built a concentration camp to round up Arabs. And he says he wished they would round them up soon because it would help the economy of his city. And this place is not far from Jimmy Swaggart's place, by the way. It's near Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And it was further reported that the concentration camp was built as part of Oliver North's plan to suspend the U.S. Constitution.
To suspend it?
That's right. And this show ran at 11:30, I think it was on a Wednesday night, and the next day there wasn't one piece of news coverage follow-up to the story at all. It never went anywhere else. It vanished because in 1980, when Reagan took office, he created a new branch of the U.S. government. I believe it's called the Department of Domestic Diplomacy. He hired the man from the CIA who had been responsible for the last 20 or 30 years for all the propaganda all over the world. Made him the head of this agency, and the task of the agency was to control U.S. public opinion. Basically, this agency calls broadcasters and tells them what stories to drop. Newsweek reported this. As far as I know, they've never disbanded this government agency.
So that was Frank talking about, this is from over 10 years ago. Any comments about that, Bob?
Well, I've talked to Frank about that stuff. Frank was a great man. He was a holy office on the show. One side thing before we go to Frank, Wayne, Bob Marshall started CKLN. The first broadcast was the last week of August 1984, the week that Truman Capote died in Joanna Carson's home, who was the ex-wife of Johnny Carson. Just a technical point there. Zappa is, remember, he coined the word xenochrony, which is strange synchronicity. He would mix recorded stuff, bass lines, drum solos, guitar stuff from completely different songs, mix them together with hopes that they wouldn't synchronize, because he kind of liked dissonance a lot. And they often synchronized. And so he called that strange synchronicity. So as we move into the global ESP, his metaphor is the attempt of private identity to avoid synchronizing with everybody, a replay of the alphabetic effect. Now, technology came alive in 1960, and over the next 30 years, laid out its replay of the history of technologies and then died. And in its throes of miming, predicting ahead of time our formation into a new octave, it acted out the human dilemma of experiencing synchronicity and of resisting it. So often in media now, for me, and I think I'm a prototype of this, is that, for example, the movie The Matrix totally mimed my chart and my manifesto, which was published in Flipside. And I think what we're going to lead into, me as acting this out first as a prophet, is the fact the future is going to wear your face. It's going to be all about you, and it's going to be your choice. In the concentration camp that's being built that Wayne talked about, it's going to be a virtual concentration camp. It's going to be a cold world, but it'll give you warmth by replaying your reality for you. The simple cliche term is all the news will be about you and what your demographics are and what your preferences and consumption are. That's the horrible fate we're moving into, and the only way to get out of that is to bring a new energy source to break us out of this software concentration camp. So when you play Frank and bring up that, it brings back a lot of personal things and conversations I had with him. The great interview that Bob Marshall did that was played on CKLN in 88, which was named in Dave Wally's final biography of Zappa as the best interview. That interview, 3.5 hours was on the record and 3.5 hours was off the record, and Frank talked a lot about how he was under surveillance. So Frank was the only one who maintained detachment from the abuse value that is highlighted in the TV show Behind the Music, which shows every star that ever went through anything in the rock pop culture and the drug culture was abused up the yin-yang. And Zappa's the only one who remained detached and would get on the media and say stuff that we just heard.
Mm-hmm.
A great man.
Now, the one thing that's really concerned me about Zappa and his ability to know things, and it'll be evidenced in this clip, and what you've talked about diet and nutrition and things like this. I'm going to play a clip here. This is from something that was recorded from CKLN. It was played on the Club 22 show, Kent Perry. It's Howard Stern interviewing Frank Zappa.
So you're looking at, I'm admiring Frank Zappa. The man has remained thin for a long time. How do you stay so thin, Frank?
It's my diet.
Is it really? What do you eat?
Coffee and cigarettes.
No, really, what do you eat?
That's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
You don't eat any health food or anything?
No.
You're just mentioning Shrek.
Take vitamins?
No.
How the hell does everyone do?
I don't know.
I should never have given up smoking cigarettes.
Maybe that's it.
Did you stop smoking?
Yeah, I was smoking 2 packs a day, and I loved it.
How come?
Someone told me it was bad for me, and I bought the whole thing.
Yeah, well, Frank, why do you smoke cigarettes?
Yeah, that's
I like them.
Aren't you nervous about dropping dead?
This is America. You can die from anything in this country.
You gotta be a pretty brave man smoking those cigarettes. I think Frank thinks it's a whole bunch of crap and thinks it's a plot by the U.S. government.
I was waiting for some theory about how, somebody was behind this.
Is that whole cancer thing a plot by the U.S. government?
Probably not.
So there's Frank. Any comments about that, Bob?
Well, Frank, I always said, acted out the Rai principle. He was the last great artist, that private identity, that original creator that was the hallmark of the alphabetic tradition in the West, but he was confronting the corporate global synchronization and merger, and he acted out that. He was a musician who presented a movie for our ears, movie being the ultimate American archetype. The only reason they looked into JFK's possible conspiracy in the assassination was because it was communicated to the Americans by a movie, JFK. When that happened, the medium of choice for Americans communicated so much they opened the law, and released more files. So that's to Oliver Stone's credit. But Zappa knew that the movie was the medium, and his music often sounded like a soundtrack to a movie. But he did act out the American archetype. And when he died in '93, which was the beginning of the replay of the Android meme, it was a tragic point. I think he expressed the failure of all of us to deal with what was coming. It wasn't his fault, but he had to act it out. And he did it musically as the big note. And my chart that we're referring to is the tribute to Frank. Is called the Xenocronist Bob's Tiny Note, as opposed to the big note that Frank talked about. Zappa here, did he get prostate cancer because 60 Minutes poisoned him when they did a special on him in 1988 and never broadcast? Did he get prostate cancer from, too much cigarettes and stuff? Did he get it because of his sexual hang-ups, if he had any? Who knows? That's the mystery of cognition. But I know that Frank had that incredible dynamo of energy, so that it didn't matter what he ate. He could get his work done, and he was an alcoholic, and he got his 60 albums out, and it's a beautiful testament to everything that we now have to face. As he said, he offered a question. He was a question.
Mm-hmm.
Why not was the name of his company when he worked in the Soviet Union and after the wall went down. A question. What do you say to that, Wayne?
Well,
the world, McLuhan invented a punctuation mark called the double duty interrobang, which is an exclamation mark and a question mark superimposed over it. The World Trade Center is a double duty interrobang. The bombing of that is the question proposed to us, and how we respond is the test for us.
Caller. Oh, sorry, Bob. I just wanted to offer callers the ability to phone into the show in the last 15 or 20 minutes that we have. 416-595-1655. I'll try to field callers. And just to warn you, Wayne, to actually take any more callers, I'm going to have to put you on hold here, occasionally put you back on, etc. So, okay. Bob, I'm going to play another section from that Howard Stern interview, and it's Frank's ruminations about AIDS.
Not about Bill Casey.
No, I don't have. He didn't mention Casey, I don't think.
Oh, he does in that interview.
That's true, yeah.
They all think he's dead, and he says, how do you know he's dead?
Right.
Which stunned them.
I'm surprised he hasn't said anything about AIDS, and how that was started by,
how was AIDS started,
testing.
Frank?
Came out of a laboratory.
Get out of here.
It's out of a laboratory. No question in my mind.
What are you saying happened?
Somebody built it on purpose.
Frank.
Yeah.
That is so scary.
Frank, you realize what you just said?
The truth.
You realize what you just said?
No, what did I just say? Somebody made it on purpose.
Who did it? Who would do such a thing? Who would do that? Who would do it? Who would do that?
That I couldn't tell you, but it seems to me that something that suddenly appears out of nowhere and kills 700 people in the month of November in the United States is not a natural occurrence.
He's got an argument there.
Really? Really?
Yeah, or to put it more bluntly, who's pluking the monkeys?
Yeah, who is pluking the monkeys?
Bob?
Tremendous, Greg, tremendous. Is that stuff we played? Yeah, Kent used to play that.
That was played on the Kent Perry Show sometime in 1990.
Yeah, and that was a tape given to me by Henry Greenbaum, my Zappa fanatic friend in New York. He gave me that back about 87, 88.
And all that's detailed in Leonard Horowitz's work, where he came across the documents for the program to basically build AIDS.
That's right. Yeah. Now, Wayne, the thing there. You wondered how Frank got this information. If you go to Android Memes and Acronym on my website, you'll see the diary of the secret history of the 20th century, and you'll see my interactions with Frank from 1958 on, and you'll see how I gave him that information. And the last page of his autobiography, he refers to A Higher Form of Killing, which information I had to get him, that book, A Higher Form of Killing, which lays out Dr. MacArthur's proposal to the Senate Committee on AIDS. And Greg and maybe Wayne, you have the broadcast that what Bob Marshall did, predicting what AIDS, how it came about. It was called technically a viral debilitant. And if anybody wants to know what happened, we broadcast on CKLN. The predictions that the source that Bob Marshall played turned out accurate. The virus mutated, genetically engineered mutation, became more benign, and there's a lot more to say about that, but I don't want to take up time. But that's a subplot here, right, Greg?
Yes, I'm back. Now I'm going to play something that Bob Marshall played on the program, and this was his show on AIDS.
Well, thanks, Richard, for giving me a minute extra. Welcome to the International Connection. This is the electrified voice of Bob Marshall. Today we have something special. I'm in here live. The International Connection will present for the public's consideration an interview with a man who claims to have observed the activities of a group of people who he claims created an artificial AIDS virus which was injected into the native population of a particular area in Africa under the cover of a well-known inoculation program in the 1970s.
And here is the speaker who was giving the information.
This man claims that later HIV viruses will be shown to have mutated into a less virulent form. The interview was conducted in September 1988, and I was asked to wait and see if certain information surfaced in the media.
However, its first mutation was into a virulent form and affected the immune system to eliminate its function, went beyond the designer view. These mutating, however, they spread was much faster and much more swift than anyone expected.
Bob, why don't you comment about that?
Excellent work, Greg. I haven't heard that in so many years. That's tremendous to hear that again. What a time to play it. First of all, that was Bob Marshall introduced it, not me. Remember, I'm not Bob Marshall.
That's right.
And the did you modulate that to make it clear? Did you have to work on it?
No, I took that. That was a tape, I think, recorded directly off CKLN.
That's tremendous, because I never knew how it sounded. Bob Marshall had to, he got a friend to modulate it to protect the person speaking there. And then we broadcast it, but I didn't know how it heard.
Yeah,
how it came across. So you're actually showing me how the Android beam, the electronic vortex heard it, and it's quite clear.
Yes, it was very clear. And that was actually played, I think, without the effect on your show at midnight at some point years later.
Did Kent do that?
I think so, or you might have. Or, yeah, you might have.
Maybe we did do that. No, it was never... maybe I did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did replay it later at night. There was when Bob Marshall did that in '89, it was a press conference, and he took a statement around to the Toronto Star and various newspapers, gave him a copy of the tape to the journalists that were covering the AIDS phenomenon through '88 and '89, and none of them did anything with it. And if they actually, this is how we fail, right? Bob Marshall failed to get the news out, and it was half his fault, and half the idiots who wouldn't listen to him. We got to realize we're a problem here. You know what I mean? And that's why this nonsense. That's why you got to see it's the Android meme fighting the anthropomorphic physical. These are terms from my chart, and we have to see how we should not engage with any information environment. As I used to say, the only station worth listening to in the whole world was CKLN, and if everybody could tune into it and we had the technology, then we'd know what's going on. But we're not seeing the information environment is an illusion. They're just acting out this drama, and they're not stopping and thinking. And who's thinking? And if humans were thinking, how are they going to implement it? We're in a situation where we meet each other one-on-one. One-on-one is now the situation, Wayne. And how you relate to that person, no matter who they are, is where the transformation can come from.
Now, the information that you gave out on AIDS, that was very important at the time. I mean, it may not seem so important now, looking back on it, but the thing is, that on this show was revealing things that would come up in the newspapers or had just come up, but this was recorded months before that. The idea that the virus mutated into different forms.
Yes, that was before it became well known. Within a year that it became noticed that HIV-1 is becoming HIV-2. But this was not announced until '89, and that interview was done in '88.
Right.
And that's why people can survive better on it. It's benign. It's now 20 years. It started in 1980, and so it's 21 years. That interview talks about it going 29 years. So we're at a real point of not very potent anymore. It still affects people, but that source said by 29 years it will be like a 24-hour flu.
Now, I'm going to go on to another clip here, and it's about Twin Peaks.
Great.
But that shows you that you can't escape the cocoon of subgeniushood now that you're a full-fledged member, right? It's just going to keep battering ram at you.
Yeah, I've never seen Twin Peaks, but I was wondering, Twin Peaks, now isn't that Golden Arches? Isn't that just the big M, the upturned breast or whatever?
Yeah, it's that. It's mountains. It's McDonald's. You got it.
Okay.
It's a visual pun.
I'll let you get on with the show then.
Of course, you'll have much more to contribute later, I imagine. Right?
Well.
Okay, I'm going to explain the number 14 now that 2 and 22 is well established. Okay?
Good.
Okay, Scott. Thanks for the input.
Now, if Twin Peaks ever had a meaning, they do now.
Oh, the 2214 is real interesting. I went to Apocalypse Now the other day. Apocalypse Now Redux. I hadn't seen it in 22 years.
Yes, I saw that recently, too.
Yeah, 1979. And the key point is when Kurtz writes a letter to his wife and family talking about the setup the military was laying on him, and he had dropped out and he was just moving forth in this psychotic attempt to eliminate the enemy because he couldn't understand them. And remember the horror, Wayne, the horror of that flipped Kurtz out was over a vaccination issue. The tribe was vaccinated by Kurtz in the early stages, like 1964, in his fictional biography, and then when he came back and the local tribe had chopped off all the children's arms. That was the horror that he couldn't handle. Now, Wayne, you're aware of the problems over the crisis and issues and argument over the value of vaccination, which is a medical thing that gets into Connie's work. But it's interesting, that's not noted. It's an issue over the horrors of vaccination. But he writes this letter, and I notice, I'm really good at noticing numbers. It just flashes by. The date of the letter is 11/11/68. Remembrance Day. But 11/11 is 22 /68 16 is 14. 22/14. If you look at this chart I'm talking about, the Silencing Virtually Solar Theater chart, you will see it's Dobbstown attacks 22/14. In the essay on this chart, 22 is a baby boomer, it's a sign for the baby boomer generation, 14 is a sign for the Generation X, but the 22/14 is the two Twin Peaks. The Twin Peaks you see at the World Trade Center are 110 feet. That's 211s. That's 22. Flight 11 and Flight 175. 7 and 5 is 12. Take 1's 11. Those 211s become 22. So 22 attacks 22. But the Pentagon was attacked by Flight 77, which is 14. So the 22/14 is emanating all through this situation. You didn't play how I explained the 14 from the tape, but I assume something did happen on that show, and I explained it. But you look at my chart, you'll see at the 22/14 point, where Dobbstown, which is any subgenius terrorist operation, you see that the magazine on the chart that parallels that is called Ben is Dead. Now, Ben is dead, Osama bin Laden, which a pun on that is, oh, Uncle Sam, you've been laden. Sammy's been laden. But the thing is Ben. Remember the rat horror movie in the 80s called Ben? So you have that impregnated into the kid's mind, Operation Mind Control, 22 years ago probably. So you have Ben is dead right on my chart, and that's the drama. 24 hours after the bombing on September 11th, you saw this burning building in Kabul, and the United States denied that they bombed it with a missile. But what happened there is you had the Lee Harvey Oswald situation. The people organizing the bin Laden operation had to be wiped out because they knew too much to the people that connected to higher levels, and it's not necessarily the Bush-Kissinger level. It's into these anonymous people level. That had to be blown out. That was the Lee Harvey Oswald patsy being killed, so there was no information coming out from them. And that's an interesting point. Now, Ben is dead as a result of that. When they bring forward the body of bin Laden, we don't know that he wasn't already killed, maybe in that 24-hour shootout just on September 11th, or will they bring forward the double? But the issue is Ben is dead. That's the question, the icon. And it's right on my chart.
It's obviously it's an integrated attack and must be dealt with in an integrated way. Any organization that can plan such a coordinated attack within a very brief period of time must have substantial resources and must have a very capable organization and must have a haven where it is planning these things. You can't do that in a back room.
Only he would know, huh?
The voice of Fritz Kramer.
It boggles my mind that this bin Laden's been public enemy number one for, 4 or 5 years, and that, certainly the U.S. intelligence service is going to be focused on his communications, his movements, his plans, and how they could have, not come up with something about this if he had done it. It just, another one of the things that just doesn't add up.
Osama bin Laden, by no stretch of the imagination, has any of the capabilities to do or to organize anything like what happened yesterday. He also, it was a creation of the Anglo-American Israeli operations, which we came to know in the United States as Iran-Contra at a certain point. So he is their creation. He's still kept in place. They'll curse him. They may kill him someday, but he's still there. And they do have a lot of controls over him. He's not capable of doing that. Somebody who wants a war in the Middle East, wants the United States to go into the Middle East and start pounding the Middle East and other places, because the effect of doing that, the way it's programmed now, would be to unleash what Brzezinski and his friend Huntington, that is to start a chain reaction fire of violence throughout the 1 billion Muslims in the world. That is not all as a unified force, but even against each other, as we see the Taliban case in Afghanistan.
Bob.
Excellent, Wade, or Greg, whoever's doing this. How did you get that? Is that a recent statement from Lyndon LaRouche?
Yes, that is from a CFRB interview.
Done a few months ago?
No, just right after the attack.
Well, that's tremendous. I guess that was due to Tom Rich's work.
Mm-hmm.
We can be proud. You're really showing a collage of the drama of cognition here, of the people we presented on CKLN, the people who we talked about, and the people who X-rated. I have Zappa and LaRouche. They do X-rays from the opposite direction. So we've got this drama, what I call quadrophenia, acted out right on this show. But we got to remember that we open with the quote, there are no nations, there are no people. To use nouns like Anglo and British and Bush and Israeli, that's all gone. Nobody has any connections anymore. The whole thing is ended. We are starting all over again, and we have our Paleolithic, pre-Paleolithic. It's Atlantean, and as it shows on my chart, it's Lemurian. In Lemurian society, the king couldn't even see people below him. Early perception, 18,000 BC. The Lemurian king could only see his court. So when the bridge fell down, after a while, he waved his hand, and the bridge would be rebuilt. And he couldn't even see who rebuilt it. He couldn't see the slaves. That was the beginning of the hierarchical and caste system in perception. In 18,000 BC came out of Lemuria. But Atlantis and the Atlantic Ocean is the alphabetic, high-powered, high-tech movement. You got this contrast between the Lemurian Gaian mentality, which has disservices as well as services, and then the Atlantean dynamic. And all of it's been replayed and virtualized by the Android meme because technology came alive after television extended our collective consciousness. So we're meeting, Wayne, one-on-one. And you may need some bread. Will I give you polluted bread or organic bread or a name? Anybody there?
Sorry, Bob, I was just taking a call there. It's moments are dwindling here.
Is Wayne there?
Yeah, actually, hold on. I'll get him back.
Okay.
There's Wayne.
Am I here? Okay. Yeah, that's what's really important is the one-on-one communication between ourselves, humans.
Because we have the grid,
in the moment as well.
Wayne, we have the technological grid as long as they don't blow up the internet for one-on-one and one-to-many and many-to-many. That's the amazing thing. The beast makes its move, whatever that is, right when it's given us the opportunity to stay in touch with everybody.
So it's sadly the show is coming to an end. I could go on for another hour with the material that I've got here. I want to play one thing here before we go, Bob. Just a blast from the past here.
I just want to say this, Craig.
Yeah.
If you want to, I'll be back in New York. We can do it the next week. I can call you in.
We could have you on every week.
That's right. It should be at this point.
Our environment and the way it comes back and treats us, and then disease and our internal environment and how external environment can make us sick once we've polluted it, and how our brains and our thoughts and our decisions that we make and our values also affect our internal environment, and how everything's all mushed together.
Do you remember that voice?
Yeah, that's Jennifer?
That's right.
Yes,
She used to be on the show before the International Connection.
Right. Did she ever come back? She went to England 10 years ago.
I don't think so.
Jennifer Zaytover.
Yes. Thank you. Very nice to hear that.
I wanted to play that for you, Bob.
Well, Wayne, Greg, what you should have played is an excerpt if you'd gotten of Connie on TV this week.
You know, I have some stuff here. You know what I'll do? Next week,
yes.
I'm not sure whether I'm going to be here next week because I might be going up to Ottawa for the NATO Parliamentary Assembly meeting.
Right.
But I'm not in attendance. I'm going to be a reporter there ostensibly. But if I'll probably play Connie on the speech she gave that I recorded. I was there, Bob. Did Connie tell you?
No, I did not. I haven't talked to her in a couple of days. I didn't hear the speech. The panel, you mean?
Yeah, the one down at the hotel.
How was it?
Good. It was great.
What was the talk about?
It was all about the food security, health food association, and about the security of our food
and genetic engineered food.
Yep. So I might play that next week. I'll edit that up together and probably play that next week. Anyway, Bob. And Bob Dobbs, we've been talking to. If you want to go and see stuff related to Bob, go to the International Connection website, which is members.home.net/International Connection, one word. And we've had Wayne Morris, the former host of the International Connection, Bob Dobbs, the man who influenced the original host, Bob Marshall, of the International Connection. I'm Greg Duffel, and that is the International Connection for this week. Thank you very much, Bob, for gracing the program again. And actually, for the first time, this is the second time you were on for the first time last week.
I hope that Wayne can give us his phone number. We keep in touch.
Yes, I'm going to put you. I'm going to put you both on. I'll put you both on hold, and we're going to go now to Aquí Nuestra America here on CKLN 88.1.
Wow, that was good. So, you
vote for president.
Yes, Bob for World Emperor, World Consigliere, the lawyer for all the people. Now that's you. So this is Bert.
Yes.
Are you Bert?
Yes.
You must stand amazed again, right, Bert? You were amazed.
Totally.
Yeah, the xenocracy is again amazing.
Yes.
It's like you're talking about Zappa and the chart and all these things that give us the oleophatic perception. It's like before this hidden group that was programming the environment had the eye of the providence, that now it's like you can develop this, it's beyond the eye, it's the synesthetic perception, the olfactic, the complete view.
Did you hear the blood reference? Bob said that that humans transformed by the blood. Did you hear that?
Oh, I think that's yeah. I meant war and murder, but yeah, that's words saying more than I realized. That's incredible. That must have been. No wonder you're amazed, Bert. You're taking what I didn't mean. I said it, but I didn't know I meant that. All transformations by blood. Wow, that's incredible. Blood accompanies transformation. Changes in the blood.
But I think that is one thing, and I see in all the vortices like Lois and McLuhan and Joyce and Zappa in his lyrics and you. It's like you have these phrases that are sort of prophetic, that it's like
all purpose.
They're not aware of what you're really saying, and then it's like it's the ionic expressing.
Yeah, it's not just the word blood; it's the way I say it. All transformations are accompanied by blood or engage in blood. It's that string of words, not
And before that was before that, there was subject about moving to the next octave. So.
Yes, there you go. The frequencies. Jesus Christ.
Yes.
I'd say I got some of that from the Evergreens, maybe. I'm not sure. I knew of Gurdjieff, but remember, I was pretty well schooled by the Evergreens. Even though they were just entities, they weren't a talking hologram like Ion, but they're tremendous. They were like a completion of the entity of channeling phenomenon. They were the best channeled experience. But what amazed me, I'm glad to hear it again. I forgot about this. I forgot all the details. The fucking name of one of the trainers, Lofty Raisi, right in the top of my chart. Lofty and Rai and Isis. Incredible. Raisi, Lofty. I mean, the name of the trainer's in the chart. They can't get better than that. Where is he today? Did they kill him? Where's Mr. Lofty Raisi? I remember I have the article. I saw it. Nelson was getting the paper every morning, and he saw it, and he was speechless. He comes over and he says, he just points at it. He can't even say anything. He just looks. And I look at it and then I read it. I go, holy shit. I cut it out and I still have it. Pretty sure I should fucking copy that if I could find it and post it. Pretty amazing. I was impressed with that point. And then all the other stuff. I like the fact we were emphasizing Frank a lot. That's pretty neat. Right?
Yeah, you actually said that. You actually said that the chart was dedicated to him. You said that you were using some of his.
Yeah. Well, it's Xenocrates Bob's tiny note. It's a takeoff on the big note. And he going to work Xenocrates? So.
You are saying you gave Frank a lot of information that really influenced his work. Many of his lyrics and his big operas are.
That's right. He's that interview. What was that? He was talking about the concert. Oh yes, that was 1988. He's talking about what he saw on TV in Arkansas or someplace, the concentration camp. The concentration camp is a major meme all through his plays, starting back in the early '60s. And then even has a play about a concentration camp on the moon, and that's what he said in the October 30th Time magazine article, 1969. when he was explaining his Uncle Meat movie. And I was just reading in some Zappa site or some book that we never figured out what Uncle Meat was about. You know, we didn't get enough information. Well, last week or the week before, I read Richie York's interview with Zappa where he explains the movie Uncle Meat, and it's just a replay of Captain Beefheart meets the Grunt People or versus the Grunt People and Hunch and Toot and these other screenplays he laid out. The Captain Beefheart versus the Grunt People was 1964, and then I have the script for when he redid it in 69, and now he's adding in members of Beefheart's band, the Magic Band, plus Grace Slick and a couple other well-known people. He redid it, tried to redo it in 69 with more famous people in it. I don't see Jim Morrison listed, but I heard that Jim Morrison was going to be part of it. And then he does Hunch and Toot in 1972, but as I'm going through it, there are books that go into the conceptual continuity, Frank, but the conceptual continuity is incredible. And I'm going to read some of this stuff tonight, excerpts from these screenplays. It fits in with what we've been saying before. But where are we?
Another idea that I think is really new at that time and even now is like you're saying there is no more Canada on the first audio you played, and then
right.
You're saying there are no more nations.
I said there's no more people.
Yes.
There's no more people. And I'm saying we have to meet one on one?
Yes. So I was say, I said your brain receives.
And when we meet one on one, sorry, I drowned you out. What did you say about the patterns?
Yeah, that you have to expand your ideas of everything, of your identity, of whatever you think you are, of everything. It has to be expanded to be able to survive in this new environment.
Right. So when I'm saying you meet
categories that we used to believe that that's what we are.
Yeah, when I'm saying when you meet people one-on-one, you have to look at you're talking to 5 bodies when you meet somebody. They've got the whole history of knowledge in their chip body. They've got all kinds of entertainment images in their TV body. Then they have the astral body. Then there's the mystery landscape. But that's who you're talking to. So when you meet a person, they're way bigger than the parameters of their physical body. You know, you're looking at a giant when you meet somebody. When you think of what's packed into the five bodies. They're not what they look like. That's why you should fuck anything that moves. You don't know what the other parts of the body is. You don't go by cliche triggers of attraction. You must fuck everybody. How's that for post-Hugh Hefner Playgirl doctrine?
Bob for president.
Bob for Hugh Hefner. Have Bob replace Hugh Hefner. That's what we should do. Hugh Hefner's obsolete. So a couple of remarks here. Dave's laughing at the 420. Then Dave says about Justin Trudeau. The first pun I've seen on Justin Trudeau comes from Dave Neufeld. Justin True Dope. Oh, that's 420. I've heard about that. That's dope dealers. That's the time of dope dealing. That's a dope thing. 420. Some kind of code or timing or something. 420 in the afternoon. And now you notice Neufeld is lurking in a lot of what we played. Neufeld was part of some of the things mentioned. He made this or that. I said some guy had made something that was Neufeld. So Dave's hearing about himself. Then Dave says, the primal forces of nature. Gillette. What's that? Gillette razor blade? Dave, beautiful collage and radio work by Greg Duffel. It's in the bag. And Dave says, Fred Landis, yes. I mentioned the April 20th, the April 1981 Covert Action Bulletin article on the 22 movement. Dave Neufeld's the one who gave me, he brought Fred Landis. No, he told me about the article, and then I had I bought all these back issues of that, so I eventually got it. But I remembered that Fred Landis, the author of the October 22nd movement, was at McLuhan's one night in the 70s. So Dave says, Fred Landis said he gave away story ideas and no one wanted the 22 one, so he offered it to Covert Action Bulletin. Yeah, Dave interviewed him, I think. Dave says, I like the dramatic classical music over the bad scenarios coming into language. Yeah, like Greg was playing some music underneath. Mateo, out there in Washington State, says, Zenocracy, Charles Sheen says he is HIV positive. Then Bob plays Bob interview from 2001, which features clip of Zappa and Howard Stern interview saying AIDS is man-made. Yeah, that's right. Charlie Sheen came up with that earlier this week, that he was HIV positive. So as the Zenocracy, synchronicity, is right on time. That's what's happening. Everything's right on time. Let's see if Corbin is still here. Corbin, are you still conscious? Would you like to say something? Who's 218? Is that Gene? Who's 218? We've had you before. Is that, Ralph or Jason? 218. See, everybody's asleep. It wasn't that good, actually, as radio guys. It's only good for INS, but it drove everybody to sleep.
No, the thing is, most people are used to these sound bites, to getting these small pieces of information that are already edited and are easy to digest. But we have to go for these long periods to get into the topics and explain many aspects of what we're trying to present.
Yeah. Let's see if Madeline's awake. You have something to say, Madeline? Everybody's asleep. Okay, so it doesn't matter. Oh, here's Anonymous. Who's this? Anonymous. You just came in.
It's Bert.
You're saying? Oh, Bert's back. So, gee, Bert, I forgot about you, Bert. Still busy thinking about myself. Okay, good. Do you have anything to say, Bert, of immediate pressing issue?
No, nothing immediate pressing.
Okay, let's go back to what Neufeldner are typing. Oh, Dave says, truly great show, Bob. That means Dave's leaving. When Dave says a truly great show, that means he's, bye, Bob. He has to go by 7, so it is 20-5 there. You got time, Dave. You got to call in, Dave. Tell us about your memories of those great golden years when we were prophets, teenage prophets, Dave. Come on, Dave, call in. You want me to call you, Dave? Let's force Dave to be on. I'm going to call him. Drag him in here. Let's see. Let's go.
But,
you okay with that,
I wanted to comment on something that I really liked from the beginning when I discovered Bob and Ian, is that you talk about the conspiracy, what we call conspiracy, which is not conspiracy in many cases, is fact.
Yeah.
But in a very quiet manner, you're not creating fear or paranoia.
Right.
You're explaining different aspects of why these things are happening.
You don't have to be afraid of them. Yeah, why you don't have to be afraid.
Bob fills in the mystery landscape of a lot of things going on that people don't get to see. He fills in the mystery landscape pattern, so it prevents someone to be paranoid or schizophrenic. You get to see it from a whole different way of what's going on.
Yes, and
that's what's fun about this.
For example, Zappa went to use a lot of this information you gave him. Some also he had experience in his own life growing up in this chemical plant, or I don't know.
Right, in Baltimore. You know, he ended his autobiography with a quote from the book I gave him. It's a book came out in 1982 called A Higher Form of Killing, and they have the testimony by Dr. MacArthur to the Senate or some hearing maybe it's a closed hearing in 1972 where he proposed that a viral debilitant, a way of a military action against your enemy that weakens the people immunologically so that they collapse, but it doesn't destroy their factories and wealth, so you come in, take over the country, take over the institutions, and then the virus mutates, and then it subsides, and then the people get back on their feet again. That document right there, there's the idea being proposed by Dr. MacArthur. That's what Frank ends his biography with, and we gave it to him. We gave him that.
Yes, and Bob and Frank use this old tool of the satire to present these very scary topics, like Frank made his UFA and the Thingfish.
The Thingfish.
And I think McLuhan said the oldest form of social study of the collective psyche is to understand the structure of power is the satire.
Satire,
and,
yes.
It has to be,
Menipian satire.
It has been used in antiquity to explain to a broader public these complex things that are hidden around.
Right. Now, let me tell you this, Roxy. You hit on a good point. The alphabet brought in tragedy. So, the peak of the alphabet is in Greece, and they have their Renaissance, 400, 500 BC, and they create this individual is against the collective. And so that leads to tragedy in comedies. But the form of entertainment before the phonetic alphabet, the pre-literate form of entertainment, was Menipian satire. An aggressive attack of your comrades in the tribe. So Menipian satire is retrieved in the post-literate era of the 21st century. Menipian satire is rediscovered because it was the way people dug in, danced in each other's toes in pre-theater forms of interaction as entertainment.
Yes, and it's entertaining, and it's also a type of constructive criticism because it's not the negative pointing someone your fault. It's ridiculizing to improve or to make you aware of what has to be improved or what has to be changed. And Plato said to understand the Greek society, he recommended the comedy of Aristophanes.
Aristophanes, yeah. Aristophanes, and you're saying Plato. Here, let me just see if Neufeld will answer. He just went, ha, ha, ha. And he goes, another night, Bob, you bastard. So you guys can talk. I'm just going to disconnect and get him.
Roxana.
Yes.
Last week you were talking about this keyboard music that the kids are learning in the school in Berlin. Is that correct? Have I heard?
Do you mean the launch pads?
Yes.
No, they're not using keyboards anymore. There are many types of controllers. Mm-hmm. It's like the instruments we use to interface with the computer to trigger events like sequences or samplers or any type of thing you want to trigger. And they're not using keyboards. They're using this type of controllers with the buttons. It's a type of finger drumming. And,
you're talking about the new
define it as the typing becoming an art form. That's how Bob defined.
So Dave's here. Dave can you can all thank Dave for his wonderful work in Dobbstown and Club 22.
Yes, he has been a member of 22.
That's right. Bob does all the work. Dave gets the credit.
Yeah, Dave gets I do all the work. Dave gets beat up in the face. we push Dave out on the stage.
You are the power behind the throne.
That's right. I'm just the front man, Dave. You're the engineer.
Damn.
The pretty face.
Yeah, the print effect. So what was it like to hear about those old things? Hear Nelson and the different things. What does it bring back for you, Dave? What Greg was playing?
Well, it was great to hear. I mean, Greg was he was a great successor to the show for sure.
Yeah.
And just all the work and obviously he was like really into stuff. 'Cause, like, I mean, look at all the stuff he prepped then for the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I just loved it, you know. Yeah, it was just great hearing you again, you know, over and over, and also the consistency, and also just that you keep predicting sort of what's happening now. That's an amazing thing. And you know, you notice in like 2000, right after, remember people got semi-spiritual after because they thought, you know what, maybe we're all going to die in 3 months, so let's go out being, you know, really noble and cool, man. You know, I'm on the side of the angels. I know where I line up in all of this.
Yeah, I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. So
which is fine. Yeah, it was very social. It got everyone drunk.
Yeah. And here we are, a game.
It's like the same
what about Berlin?
We found in Berlin. Repent, you may die tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, the subgenius sign. Repent, you may die tomorrow. That's the main slogan in the Subgenius book. It's the first thing that they put out. That's but Dave, what you're listening to, that's the same wisdom that should be said now after the Paris thing. It's the same fucking
I know.
replay.
Well, in that way, it has a very program quality in the sense that whole Holland sort of speech and the thing did really, and I think probably, I don't know, I haven't really watched many news channels, but it was very reminiscent of Bush giving his speech, you know, in October 2001 or whatever, like, you know, and also was very reminiscent of Putin giving his speech. So it's just all different thugs saying, we're making a move.
And they're archetypal. It's an archetypal replay. Same archetypal. Yeah.
Yes.
Archetypal fear.
Yeah. I know. It's fun in that sense. And how about, remember the classic scenario, and it is, when you're listening to the show too, Wayne is saying it, you know, it's like, you know, oh my God, the new boogeyman of terrorism kind of thing coming in the late 90s and then full force as figure right after 9/11, and then you think, yeah, it's about 15 years later, and it's still kind of replaying that theme because, you know, they haven't escalated to, you know, a newer, bigger problem like aliens or something. We're still, Yeah,
the Wayne was, what he was explaining, you see, Wayne was still learning in a sense, and he was explaining the obvious about, oh, the military can take over.
Yes.
And I couldn't get him to, you know, appreciate what I was trying to point out. So, that's 2001. And 13 years later, Dave and I are with Wayne Morris again, last September, a year ago. You were there that night. We went to the club, and Bob Marshall was there, and a couple other people. And Wayne had heard a bit of Ion. So I proceeded to explain him more and more details, got him more and more interested, and then I think he was going to buy the RNA drops. But he had gone into a new age kind of state of mind. I think he was out there growing organic food and that over the last 10 years. And so we wanted to update him, so I got a chance to talk to him a year ago. And show him this. It's a bit different from the sort of the cliche new agey position he was in.
Well, it's funny because he almost alludes to it then. Remember he was saying in the 2001, it's like he's saying all the top-down stuff that's all over the conspiracy in the media, and, you know, what seems blatant, and, you know, and it was horrible. You know, it was a lockdown by a bunch of creepy guys, sort of, and it was, you know, so it wasn't a comfortable time culturally. But then he picks up on your theme as well, and he's tried to stick with it, you know, well, you know, you got to be nice to people and loving and that kind of thing and make a difference in that, you know, that's something you can do.
You see, it's not fear. When people start saying they're using fear against us, that doesn't say enough. Fear is just 1/5 of it. That's paranoia. What about schizophrenia? What about hysteria, ecstasy, and panic? You know, they're presenting the ecstasy mean, not the fear mean, the ecstasy mean meme. And all that means, see, it's not, you know, Churchill did it, you know, all we have to do is fear, no, maybe it was Roosevelt, one of those guys said it, and that was that, you know, in the 30s. You don't need to say that again, it's too limited. We're not controlled by fear. We're controlled by the endless consumption that the extension of our senses are engaged in. And that includes emotional entertainment that presents exaggerated scenarios of paranoia, of schizophrenia, ecstasy, hysteria, and that's what entertainment plays on.
Absolutely.
And we're addicted to, a good phrase is the military-industrial entertainment complex. But even that, McLuhan said, you start hyphenating military and industrial, something's wrong there. That's not the case. It's not connecting, it's disconnecting. Each thing's becoming a mini-state, and then they start warring among themselves. I mean, would it be amazing if they found out that 911 was done by some Hollywood producer? Some guy pissed off they hadn't got the fucking Oscar 10 times, Archie Bunker's producer or something. People don't see the empire, the new kind of mini-states, that have billionaires that can, harness little armies and do stuff. Mm-hmm. They keep focusing on the Pentagon and the old cliche of these bad military guys. And those military guys, they're not like that. They're trying to be nice to the service environment. They're all nice, and they bring in think tanks, and forget the guy.
Try and stop the disintegration, or have it controlled.
Yeah, and so then, I forget his name, but he did a book, pretty good book, and he was a beatnik hippie guy down in the village. And I met him in, 97, 98 at the McLuhan conference, and he was shocked. He'd been invited by the Pentagon to come speak to them. And here's this, bohemian, dope-smoking, Generation X kind of guy who'd written a pretty thoughtful book. It was just replay of McLuhan, which he didn't know, but he went down there and he walked into this room of generals and military people. And he scared shitless, and he didn't know why they wanted to know something. He didn't know the military is just like any other soft institution. They're trying to justify what they do and not be able to do what they are trained to do. You're not allowed to go to war. They can't do anything, so they sit around having think tanks all day long. Just like Pepsi Cola, they have nothing to do. People are going to buy Pepsi Cola anyways. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of executives as dropouts, but they don't literally drop out. They just have discussions and have salons. Mm-hmm. Like us.
Exactly. Well, to some extent, they're caught up in limbo. At the same time, obviously, war is a big business still.
Well, it's not. No, 1/5 of that Pentagon. They're in the LaRouche quadrant. They're hardware war. But what about the software war of advertising? All the media are in the war. You know the one medium that's not at war? All through the 20th century was the bankers. This is what McLuhan said. Print, such an obsolete medium, sat on the sidelines. So that's the bankers. Now, they then had to go to war when Rockefeller tried to become president. He had to move into politics because in the 70s, the computerized environment was obsolescing the print sideline, and so even print had to come running back in, just like the oligarchy came back in through Prince Charles. All the institutions were forced to jump in because the Android meme went around all of them. So then banking disappeared. There's no money now except for what is the power now? It's Matt Taibbi writing about Goldman Sachs for Rolling Stone magazine. That's where paranoia has gone to. You know Matt Taibbi?
Don't know if I don't know if
Taibbi. He's a young guy. I knew him in New York, and he got a gig writing for Rolling Stone. He did the Goldman Sachs exposés. So he did the last hangover of respectable suspicion of organized capitalists as a conspiracy, and he just writes these connecting things. But that's not the way it is. We really got to see that the world's not connecting. Everybody thinks the internet connects everybody. Well, that's a rearview mirror image. So the internet disconnects everybody in deep ways. Mm-hmm. So Jean comes in and says, "What did I miss?" Then she laughs. Well, you missed.
What you miss? Listen to it and you'll know. What you missed where you last left it.
Yeah, and Bob was served up as this year's Thanksgiving turkey. It was consumed by all.
Oh. What'd you miss? A revisiting of holograms that are different every time you go through them.
Yeah, that's right. You can't go back anymore. You can't go back home again. It's changed. Not the same home.
Just different levels of meaning.
Yeah.
Sometimes less, sometimes more, depending what you're bringing to the table that day.
And what you ate. What you brought to the table and then what you ate. So it's always good to give Bert sobering remembrance. What's going through your mind now, Bert?
What's going through my mind is ions completion, or taking your ideas earlier and reproducing them. Because you said in the first clip that we need to learn how to die with integrity, and Ion completed that by saying, get happy or get out.
Right. Yeah. It's incredible how Ion polished what I was getting at. You know, he really did complete a lot of the different things I get credit for saying that the astroplane, way back 25 years ago, I was saying the electric environment is going to affect the astrobody. And that's the most prophetic ionic statement you can make, because Ion said they came forth because we weren't using the chip landscape to the best of our abilities. So the chip, the electronic digital world, evoked a change in the astroplane. That's what I was saying way back in the late 80s, early 90s. That's a very profound theological statement, and that's what happened. Remember, Ion said...
what sparked you to say that?
Oh, back then? It would be a combination of cosmic awareness and the evergreens. Here I was an expert on McLuhan, but I was interacting with metaphysical profundity and good stuff like the evergreens, and the various things they said through the years, I recognized even the fact that the evergreens came forth. I said, that's some kind of change, because it was such a good medium. Humans didn't have that before, channel entities. So I knew there was a change there, and I discussed it with them. So I would say I got it from interacting with the evergreens. And I was the only one doing it.
Can you say it again?
Of any knowledge.
Can you say it again now?
What?
Can you say it again now that you...
Yeah, what I was saying back then is that the astral plane, which could mean God, will be changed by the electronic extensions. I don't know if I say digital back then, but the electric technology was affecting the visible world and the audible world and the deeper non-physical world, what I call the astral plane. And the reason I've said that is because the evergreens were so unique. And they talked about what their mission was and how they were affected by this and that. And then Ion comes in and says, the chip landscape is this huge environment that humans can't control, and they can't project their rules on it. Their rules have no staying power. And because we could not control the chip landscape, our extension, known as non-physical, saw the opportunity to come in because we didn't know what to make of the space. We couldn't control it. And if we created rules and laws and morals about the space, non-physical would respect that. But because we couldn't make defining, limiting paradigms about this new chip landscape, the Android